Somewhere on this planet, thousands of years ago, one person did something so strange, so random, and so human that it eventually led to gas stations selling lighters right next to the candy bars. We are going to find that person. Well, not find them. They're dead, very dead. But we're going to find the moment. The exact kind of moment that changed how humans live forever. And I promise you, by the end of this, you will never look at a campfire the same way again. Here's the setup. No cities yet. No writing, no money, no one to call the cops if things get weird, just a small group of humans sitting around a fire in the dark on a planet that has not been explained to anyone yet. The fire cracks, sparks fly up, and the smoke does what smoke has always done since the beginning of time. It goes straight for someone's face. Doesn't matter where you sit, doesn't matter which way the wind blows, smoke has one job, and that job is you. Someone coughs. Someone waves their hand through it, which, fun fact, has never once worked on smoke. Not one single time in human history. But then something small happens. Something nobody planned. The smoke changes. Not louder, not brighter, just different. Maybe some leaves got thrown on by accident. Maybe someone was cold and grabbed whatever was close. We don't know. Nobody wrote it down because writing hadn't been invented yet. But somebody breathes it in, and something shifts inside them. Their shoulders drop. Their fear gets a little quieter. The world feels slightly tilted in a way it did not feel 5 seconds ago. And then, one thought crawls into their brain. A thought so small and so dangerous that it is basically the start of every bad decision in human history. Can I feel that again? Stick a pin in that moment, we're coming back to it. Because that one tiny can I feel that again is going to turn into pipes, prayers, funerals, doctors, kings, wars, and yes, eventually, a guy standing outside an office building holding a cigarette like it personally betrayed him. But first, we have to go back even further than fire smoke. We have to go back to fire itself. Here's a fact that will mess with your head a little. Humans were sitting next to fire, breathing smoke, hundreds of thousands of years before anyone smoked anything on purpose. Not for fun, not as a choice, every single night. For generations and generations, long before generations was even a word. Fire kept them warm. Fire kept the scary animals away. Fire let them cook food that used to be dangerous to eat raw. Fire let them stay up after dark for the first time ever, which if you think about it, is basically the first version of staying up late doing nothing productive. And every night, that fire filled their lungs with smoke. We're not talking modern humans here either. Older cousins of ours. Different shape, different brain, definitely no idea that breathing smoke every night for 10,000 generations might come up later. For an insane stretch of time, this was just normal. This was the air. Smoke was simply part of being alive. And here's where it gets interesting. Not all smoke does the same thing to your body. Burn plain wood and you get heat and a cough, but burn certain plants and something else can happen. Some plants have things inside them that can change how you feel. Your mood, your pain, your fear. Even how hungry you are. Nobody around that fire had a science word for any of this. Nobody said, this appears to be affecting my nervous system. They didn't explain it, they just felt it. Maybe one plant made people calm. Another made someone's stomach flip. Another made the dark past the fire feel like it was full of something watching. Another made pain go quiet for a while. Another made someone laugh at nothing. We can't point to one single night and say that's the first time. Nobody left a note. But we can say this, humans spent an enormous amount of time near fire and smoke. And eventually, someone noticed a pattern. And once a human notices a pattern, that's basically the whole plot of civilization. We remember things, we repeat what works, we tell the next person. That plant helped grandpa's cough. That other one, and the hunters didn't sleep, they sang instead. Those seeds, and someone swore they saw their dead sister's face in the smoke, and they meant it. That right there, that noticing, that remembering, might be one of the oldest experiments humans ever ran. No lab coat, no notebook, just fire, breath, and one very confused ancient human thinking, wait, why do I suddenly feel like I understand the moon? Okay, now here's where we need to slow down for 1 second, because there's a difference between two things. Thing one, ancient humans breathing weird smoke by accident all the time just from living near fire. Thing two, ancient humans building actual rituals around it on purpose. The first one is easy to believe. The second one needs real proof. And proof is where this whole story gets hard. Because here's the annoying truth about history. Stone survives. Bone survives. Usually, pottery survives. Leaves do not survive, smoke does not survive, breath definitely does not survive. So when we ask when did humans start smoking on purpose, we're basically asking dirt to remember something made of air. And dirt is terrible at that job. Still, some proof did survive. And this next part is wild, so stay with me. High up in the mountains of Central Asia, at a burial site around 2,500 years old, archaeologists found wooden bowls, burnt stones, and something they were not expecting. Cannabis, strong cannabis. Not the rope-making kind. The kind that does something. This wasn't an accident. Someone was heating stones on purpose, placing plants on them on purpose, and breathing the smoke that came off right next to their dead. By this point in the story, breathing plant smoke wasn't random anymore. It had rules. It had a reason. It was tied to death and memory and whatever people believed happened after someone stopped being alive. And now, here comes a guy you might actually know. Herodotus, ancient Greek writer, sometimes called the father of history, other times called, less politely, the father of trust me bro. He wrote about a group of nomads who would climb inside small tents, heat stones until they glowed, throw hemp on top, and breathe in the smoke that filled the whole tent. According to him, they loved it. A lot. For a long time, historians read this and thought, sure Herodotus, and what else happened on your trip? But then archaeologists dug up burial sites from exactly the people he was talking about, and they found burnt stones, and bowls, and hemp residue, right where he said it would be. So yes, a couple thousand years ago, real actual humans were sealing themselves into tiny tents on purpose to get smoked out together. And someone thought it was important enough to write down. Keep that tent scene in your head, because in a minute, we're going to jump continents completely and meet a totally different plant with a totally different story that ends up taking over the entire planet. Its name is tobacco, and where it comes from might surprise you. Tobacco is from the Americas, only the Americas. That means for most of human history, nobody in Europe, Africa, or Asia had ever seen it, smelled it, or burned it. When European sailors first showed up in the Caribbean, they saw something that confused them. Local people were breathing in smoke from rolled-up dried leaves, some through the mouth, some through the nose. The sailors did what humans always do when they see something weird. They tried it. But here's the twist. Tobacco was not new to the Americas at all. It was already old news. In the Utah desert, archaeologists found tobacco seeds sitting in an ancient fire pit. That fire pit is about 12,000 years old. 12,000 years. That's before cities, before writing, before pottery, in a lot of places on Earth. And people were already gathering wild tobacco and putting it in their fires. We don't know for sure if they were smoking it exactly like later cultures did. Maybe they chewed it, maybe they burned it as an offering, maybe it was medicine, maybe it was all three depending on the week. But one thing is clear, humans didn't wait for civilization to start messing with plants and fire and their own minds. If anything, messing with plants and fire might have helped build civilization. Across the Americas, tobacco eventually became something close to sacred, used for healing, for prayer, for making peace between rival groups. People believed the smoke carried their words upward, to something they couldn't see. That is a very different relationship with a plant than grab one from the gas station. Which brings us to the real question hiding under this whole video. Why are humans, everywhere, in every culture we know of, so obsessed with changing how it feels to be alive? Because this was never just about tobacco, or cannabis, or even smoke. Humans fermented drinks, ate certain mushrooms on purpose, and other mushrooms very much by accident, danced until they dropped, starved themselves for days straight, drummed for hours until the whole group stopped feeling like separate people and started feeling like one thing. Sat together in silence for so long that something in their heads finally shifted. That's either an ancient religion or the world's very first group therapy session. And honestly, who's to say it's not both? Some scientists think this urge to feel different might not even be a human invention. It might be older than us. Animals have been seen eating fermented fruit and acting strange afterward. Nobody is saying elephants throw parties. But the pattern is hard to ignore. Wanting to feel different is not a modern thing. It wasn't invented by cities, or nightlife, or advertising. It might be older than language itself. And smoke, for a huge chunk of human history, was one of the easiest doors into that feeling. You can see it, but you can't hold it. It rises up and disappears, right in front of you. And it comes from fire, which was already the single most powerful, most mysterious thing early humans had ever managed to control. Fire turned raw meat into dinner. Turned freezing nights into safe ones, turned pitch-black darkness into a small circle where you could actually relax a little. And sometimes, it turned certain plants into something that felt a lot like a vision. No wonder people treated smoke with respect and a little fear. It seemed to belong to two worlds at the same time, the one right in front of them and whatever they believed was sitting just past it. But that respect existed for a very good reason, because some smoke healed people, and some smoke killed them. There was no label, no warning sign, no little pamphlet that said, "Please don't inhale unless spiritually ready." There was only trial and error. And ancient trial and error was brutal. Someone ate the wrong plant. Someone burned the wrong leaves. Someone breathed in something that made them feel amazing. And someone else breathed in something that made them extremely, permanently dead. But the ones who survived remembered. And they passed that memory down, not through books, because books didn't exist yet, but through elders repeating the exact same instructions until the instructions became a ritual. Only this plant. Only at night. Only with someone else in the room. Only after the right words are said first. From the outside, that can look like superstition. Up close, it's basically an ancient safety manual, just wrapped in ceremony, because ceremony was the only format they had. And rituals did something else too. They pulled the whole group closer together. For almost all of human history, being alone was not peaceful. It was practically a death sentence, just with a nicer view. Groups that trusted each other and shared what they learned tended to survive. Groups that didn't, usually didn't make it very far. So sitting together in a tent full of smoke wasn't only about how one person felt. It might have been one of the earliest ways humans learned to bond as a group. A shared experience, strong enough that it became part of who they were together, not just something that happened to one person alone. Basically, ritual smoke was social technology, just built out of fire and belief instead of wires and metal. And then there's medicine, which might be the strangest part of this whole story. Ancient Egyptian doctors described treatments using heated herbs you were meant to breathe in. Ancient Greek medicine used herbal smoke and steam. In India, a tradition called Ayurveda has a practice sometimes called smoke drinking, where specific herbs were inhaled through tubes to treat specific problems, which sounds like something a poet made up during a fever dream, but the logic actually made sense. Your lungs absorb things fast. Breathing something in gets it into your body quicker than almost anything else you could do back then. We still use that exact idea today. Inhalers, anesthesia gas. The concept never really left. We just stopped setting the medicine on fire first, which, to be fair, was a solid upgrade. So by the time humans started writing things down, breathing in smoke on purpose was already everywhere, wearing 100 different outfits. Ritual, medicine, grief, peace treaties, prayer, fun, different plants, different places, same basic move, every single time. Burn the plant, breathe it in, feel something change. And then, tobacco left the Americas. In its home culture, tobacco came with rules, elders, ceremony, a right time and a right way to use it. In Europe, almost none of that came along for the ride. The plant made the trip across the ocean. The meaning behind it mostly got left at the dock. Tobacco went from strange new thing, to fashion item, to daily habit, to full-blown global industry in just a few hundred years. Compare that to the 12,000 years that came before it, and that's basically overnight. By the 1600s, it was moving through trade routes fast. By the 1700s, using it was a fashion statement for rich people. By the 1800s, cigars were everywhere. And then the 1900s gave us the object that changed absolutely everything. The cigarette. Small, cheap, fast. No fire pit required. No elder required. No ceremony, no waiting. Just open the pack, light it, breathe, and do it again. And here's the part that stings a little. The modern cigarette is not just an old tradition that kept walking forward naturally on its own. It's a product. Built, tested, marketed hard, including straight at teenagers for years, which is not a rumor, it's documented fact. Cigarettes got sold as cool, dangerous, glamorous, calming, rebellious, sophisticated, basically every personality trait except the true one, which apparently didn't sell as well. And while all that marketing was happening, the companies making cigarettes already had research showing exactly what smoke was doing to people's lungs, long before the public warnings ever caught up. And that, right there, is the actual break in this whole story. Not the fire, not the smoke, a person placing tobacco into a fire with care, and a company designing a product to keep people hooked for profit, both technically involve smoke. They are not the same thing. One is a relationship, the other is a business plan. And once you notice that split, it's hard to unsee it, because we've done this exact move again with other things too. We took hunger, and built food designed to make you keep eating past full. We took the human need for connection and built apps designed to make sure you never quite feel done scrolling. We took boredom and loneliness, completely normal human feelings, and built entire industries that survive by keeping those feelings never fully solved. The cigarette is just the most obvious version, because you can literally watch the evidence burn down in your hand. So, back to the big question. When did humans actually start smoking? Honest answer, we don't know the exact moment. We can't. But the proof takes us back about 12,000 years for tobacco in North America, and about 2,500 years for cannabis rituals in Central Asia. And ancient medicine from Egypt, Greece, and India shows people were breathing in smoke on purpose for treatment thousands of years ago too. But the behavior itself, the simple act of breathing something in to change how you feel, probably goes back way further than any of those dates. Probably all the way back to the beginning of that long, strange relationship between humans and fire. Because once our ancestors sat that close to flames, night after night, generation after generation, breathing in whatever the fire happened to be burning, it was basically inevitable that someone, eventually, would notice the difference between one kind of smoke and another. And the second someone noticed, someone remembered. And the second someone remembered, culture began. Remember that person from the beginning? The one who first thought, "Can I feel that again?" Maybe they weren't chasing a thrill. Maybe they weren't rebellious or bored. Maybe they were in pain and something eased it. Maybe they were grieving and something made the night survivable. Maybe they were just a scared kid, watching an elder feed leaves into a fire, wondering what it was actually for. Maybe it didn't start with pleasure at all. Maybe it started with wonder. And maybe that's the real thread running through all of this. Humans have never fully been okay with the way it normally feels to just exist. Sometimes because life hurts. Sometimes because the world is scary in ways that are hard to explain. Sometimes because being alive, on a spinning rock, surrounded by everyone we'll eventually lose, is honestly just a lot to carry without some kind of relief valve built in somewhere. So we reached for plants, for fire, for rhythm and ritual and story, for anything that might crack a door open, even a little. Smoke was one of the very first doors we found. It rose off the fire like a question nobody had words for yet. Where does it go? What is it carrying? Why does it change the way I feel? Ancient people answered with myths and ceremony and careful warnings passed down for generations. Modern people answered with chemistry, industry, and a warning label on a box. But underneath all of that, the picture hasn't actually moved. A person, next to a fire. A plant, placed into the heat. A breath, taken in on purpose. Something in the mind, shifting, even just a little. And a choice, made quietly, to do it again. With everything we've built since then, the cities, the screens, this entire glowing, humming version of modern life, we are still, somehow, standing closer to that original fire than most of us would ever guess. We still gather around glowing things in the dark. We just call them phones now. We still reach for something that promises to make being alive a little easier to carry. So next time smoke drifts past you on a cold night, and it catches you right in the throat like it always somehow does, remember what you're actually standing near. One of the oldest relationships our species has ever had. Fire, smoke, breath, the same three things that kept our ancestors warm, and scared them, and healed them, and fooled them completely, and every so often, carried something upward that they had no other way to send. Long before any of it had a name, someone leaned toward the smoke anyway. Not because they understood it, because they felt something move. And in that one breath, a very old, very unfinished idea got started. That the mind could be changed. And once we learned that, we never really stopped looking for the next door.